All right, guys, it's playoff time. It's time for the good stuff. Are you guys ready?
Yes, sir.
You ready, Randall?
Let's go.
All right, I got to find the button. See, I wasn't ready. Normally, when Randall says let's go, I go. All right, Randall, let's go.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Championship week did not disappoint. Friday night on the girls' side, filled with a bunch of one-possession games, a couple overtime thrillers. Let's start off with Elstone and Mallard Creek. She led the Mavericks with 24 points and 4 blocks in the Queen City Conference title win over North Mech. Next up was
Hold
Skylar.
on, hold on. Would you expect anything less?
No, I mean, this is that time of year where you expect big-time players to make big-time plays.
Okay, I'm just checking. Just checking. Yeah. I was wondering about you and Elstone.
Skylar Fleck and Audrey Kell, the senior, made 2 free throws with 1/10 of a second left to upset Myers Park in the SOMEC 4A finals. Kaylee Carson at Independence, the East Tennessee recruit, had 23 points in the game-winning free throws versus Catholic to win the Southwestern finals.
That was a crazy game because Myers Park, Catholic hit free throws to go up by 3 in regulation, and then a certain player that came down shook a girl off, hit a 3 to send in overtime. That was just an amazing game. Who was that player?
It was. Cameron Kitchen had an amazing play at the end of regulation to hit a 3 to send the game to overtime.
I got an inside joke today.
And I'm sure a lot if they've watched this season, I'm sure a lot of people picked up on it. And Kaylee Carson was able to seal the deal for them Friday night. Cherie Gidney over at Hickory Ridge, she had 18 points and 7 rebounds in the upset of Lake Norman. And last but not least, Miss Boyce. And this was
Beyonce. Alana, isn't it Beyonce, Alana? Am I saying it right?
Beyonce, yeah.
Beyonce. All right, here we go. Not Beyonce.
I said Beyonce.
We're not doing Texas Hold'em.
I got it this time. Just an unbelievable performance to go to the free throw line, make 2 free throws, and I'm gonna ask her, when you made those free throws, did you feel like, all right, if we get this stopped, the game's over?
Yeah, that's how I was feeling after.
And so they make the 2 free throws. You make the 2 free throws. They come down. They score a bucket, and so now you got to come back on the other end. What was going through your mind as time's winding down?
Honestly, like after the game, all my coaches were asking me like what was going on. I just kind of I blacked out. I was just like, we just gotta go. So I was just running and trying to go get a bucket. I wasn't thinking anything really.
So as soon as you caught the ball, you were just straight to the rim.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize before, when I watched the film back, I realized that one of the girls, they came to contest me. I didn't even feel like it was contested at all. I just was focused on focused on the bucket, honestly.
I love it.
No, that was an amazing shot, amazing couple of plays. How hard is it to have to play a team over and over and over again like that?
To play, especially when they're so physical, playing them so many times, especially when they know what we're doing and kind of adjusting their game plan every single time. It's hard to beat a team 3 times, but we got it done. So
we have arguments on the show all the time, Alana, about the playoff brackets, and some of these playoff brackets have. In the boys' side, like for instance, Myers Park and Audrey Kell played Friday night in the conference championship. That was their 3rd time playing. They could play a 4th time on Friday. Oh, wow. Do you like it when the brackets are set up that way, or would you prefer maybe a human kind of made sure that conference teams couldn't play each other until later on in the playoffs?
I would rather it that we wouldn't play them so many times.
Right. Yeah.
Because if I'm not mistaken, off the top of my head, you guys will see North as well. And if you both win your first round matchup, right? Or is it the second round?
No, it's the first round. Second round, yeah. Second round.
Yeah, second round, yeah.
So that's what I'm getting at. Would you prefer not to have to do that if humans kind of were curating that thing a little bit to say, oh, they're in the same conference, let me move one down to the other side of the bracket. Would that be better?
Yeah, I think that would be better.
Why so?
I think because just playing different people to see the different matchups, because we played them so many times, and especially how hard it is to beat a team that many times. And I feel like it kind of gets repetitive having to play teams that you play in your regular season.
Yeah. The other thing that we were discussing last week, and when I was curious to hear from a kid's perspective, I'm of the opinion that there shouldn't be any more conference tournaments. I think they kind of, to your point, they get repetitive, and it almost always ends up being 1 versus 2. So my idea was to have a city championship where you take the top 8 seeds, put them in a bracket. You take the next 6 seeds and put them in a bracket from all the CMS conferences. And you take the next 5 and put them in a bracket and play them off and have 3 championships. Is that something you think might appeal to kids to play for a true city championship to kind of get away from playing your conferences?
Yeah, I feel like that would be cool. Kind of getting to play different people and seeing like who's like the real champ.
Yeah. Would you like to have a jacket that says city champion, a trophy? That'd be cool. Like a leather jacket, that'd be cool. All right. Well, before we let you go, I wanted to ask you about Olivia Washington. I know she lost her dad. She's come back and played. Is the season? Have you guys, kind of come together as a team, kind of galvanized around that and picking her up?
Honestly, that's kind of been like our main focus this past week has been trying to make sure her family's making sure they're good and making sure like that they have everything they need. And actually, I'm so proud of Liv because she came back so fast. Like she's been absolutely amazing. Like she's been all smiles, all that stuff. So like her so fast and her even playing in this last game was just like, it's really inspiring to see.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I lied. Yeah. I got one more question. Mallard Creek's never won a state championship, and I'm of the opinion that this is probably the best team and best chance they have to win one. How determined? I know you know that history. So how determined are you guys to get to the dance and win the dance?
Honestly, for us, there's no other option. We got to win. We got to win. Like we don't have no other options at this point. Like
why no other option?
We're playing for something now. Like we really like after Mr. Eddie passed, we honestly, that's our main focus is to just win this for him. That's like our main goal.
That's what's up. That's what's up. Well, Alana, thanks for coming on with us. I really appreciate that. Good luck to you guys on Tuesday. And then I guess you're probably playing North Mech again on Friday. So good luck in that one as well. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Take care of yourself. Randall, can Mallard Creek win it all?
They can. And, when you find something that's bigger than yourself, sometimes that's all it takes. So her saying that right there, yeah, I mean, I think they got a great shot at it.
If Elle Stone starts playing like Elle Stone, I think they will win the state championship. But she's going to have to play the way that, we kind of expected her to play. I know she's been battling some injuries early on, but she and Lily Booker make a 1-2. I know you talked about the East Lincoln 1-2 punch last week. They're as good as anybody when they get going 1-2, and they have a lot of talent around them and great coaching. So, like I said, I think this is their year if they're going to do it. But it's going to be hard coming out of that 4A West. All right, Rick, boys plays of the week.
Well, we're going to start off with Isaiah Dennis of Davison Day. He was outstanding this week. They played the semifinals on Thursday night, and he had a fantastic game there. He had 28 points. And then in the state championship game against Greenfield, he had 18 points. And he was really the star of the day and probably someone that mid to high major schools are going to start tracking right away. Yeah. Next up is Xavier Perry out of Victory Christian. Another outstanding week. He led Victory Christian to the 1A state championship. Earlier in the week, they had a 1-point win, a 55-54 win over Northside Christian, which they split with during the regular season. And then they had to come back and play United Faith for the state championship, which they also split during the regular season. He had 12 points and was really instrumental in his guard play. Yeah. He's a very heady, high IQ point guard, and he sort of sets the tone for Victory Christian. And they're a team that doesn't have a lot of superstars, but they just play well as a team. And, they came up victorious and won the state championship. Next up, we have 6'5", junior KJ Younger of Weddington. We've mentioned him before. He's really an up-and-coming player, but he had 26 points, game-winning bucket in the Southern Carolina Conference Championship game. And that game sort of reminded me of the game when they played Lake Norman at our event. They were down by 1 point. He got the offensive rebound off a missed free throw. He took it linked to the court and hit the game-winning layup. But he's really an outstanding player, someone to track for next year as a senior. Next up is Santana Lynch. Early in the year, Santana was playing with a lot of spark in his game. In the first game of the year, we had him playing, against Cannon, and he just looked tremendous. And he's had a really good year. He's averaged around 15, 16 points a game, right around 9 rebounds. he sort of had a little lull there, but Lake Norman is very balanced. But this past week, he sort of had a little bit of the spark he had earlier in the season. He had 36 points and 18 rebounds in the 2 games this week, and they won the Greater Metro Conference Tournament Championship. And last but not least is someone that, a remarkable young man. If you look at Butler's season, last year they lost 4 other top 5 scorers off the team. And, they didn't have, anybody as far as a lot of experience except for Tyler Showalter. He came in and made a 20-foot, 3-pointer, and 2 free throws to win the game and also win the Southwestern 4A Tournament Conference Championship.
Yeah. Tyler, you had a phenomenal season. I think your trainer might be pretty good. Who's your trainer, by the way?
Randall Clark. He helps me out a lot. So
tell me about beating Independence. Kind of the same thing with Mallard Creek. It's a team you just played last week. I think it was an overtime buzzer beater there. We had their player last week that scored it. What's it like playing that team over and over and over again? How hard is that?
It's definitely hard for sure. I mean, they're a great team, great defensive team. Every time we played them, it's been just a defensive battle. But yeah, we got them. We lost to them twice. The first game, we were all off. We didn't play our best. Second game, that was kind of more of what we can do. And he had a good shot down the stretch, and we knew that there was a good shot we would see them again in the conference tournament, and we wanted it and we got it and we took care of business. So
yeah.
Tyler, I have a question for you. Last year, Butler went 17-9, 9-3 in conference, and you were one of the few juniors on the team because it was a very senior laden team. This year you're one of the lone seniors on the team. So you guys this year are 19-9 and 10-2 in the conference. What were your expectations coming into this season? And let's hear about that.
Yeah. So, obviously my expectations were just, I always set high expectations. So I wanted to get right back to where we were last year. I wanted to win the conference tournament, which we did. And I want to win first round and playoffs. So, which we fell short last year of doing. So we got some things to finish up. So
you're not surprised by the season that you guys have had at Butler under Patrick King?
No, sir. Not at all. I'm not. I know there's a lot of people out there who wouldn't think, we'd be where we are, but we got here. We all work hard. We're all giving everything we got. So,
funny story about Tyler. Tyler is a lot of kids text me and stop me about what we say on the show, and Tyler is one of the ones who when we pick, he makes sure to ask me if I pick Butler. So on Friday before they played, he asked me. He texted me. And he said, "Who you taking?" And we got this thing where whenever he asked me, I normally go opposite. So I made sure to send him the opposite text. There was no response to the text. He just put a thumbs up on it. And at that point, I was like, yeah, I could guess how this one's going to go.
Tyler, how good is Randall as a trainer? How much has he helped you? I always come over here and say he's the best trainer I know. Is he really that good? As I'm just talking?
No, 100%. He's that good. He's helped me come leaps and bounds with my jump shot. Just building confidence overall with my 3-ball. It's just improved so much since last year.
Yeah. Before we let you get out of here, talk to me about going to the playoffs and how big a deal is making the playoffs to a high school kid, and how much different is the playoffs versus the regular season for a high school kid?
Yeah. For us, it's a huge deal for us. That's kind of what we've worked toward our entire season. Really, that's where we started off. It's in the very beginning of the season, we wanted to be there, and now we got a shot to be there. And we're going to be there. We want to win this. We want to win the first round for sure. And then we're just taking it week by week at this point, or game by game.
Yeah.
And we all want it so bad.
Well, good luck to you, man. Phenomenal game. The 28-foot 3 to tie and 2 free throws to win it. You got ice water running in your veins, bro.
I appreciate that.
All right, man. Take care of yourself.
Good luck to you, Tyler.
Thank you.
All right. Rick, I just love talking to these kids every week. People talk about, our children, and we get them on here, and they're so well spoken, and they're thoughtful. It's just really refreshing to see, some of these, talk to these kids every week. Even when I go out doing my job. All right, let's talk.
Langston, I want to mention one thing too. Is you look at a kid like Tyler Showalter, and you know how, with the transfer portal at the college level, it sort of seeped down into the high school level. And you look at a Butler team that was very successful last year. They were 17-9, and they basically lose 4 of their top 5 players, and he's the lone senior. And, a lot of these kids nowadays, they're looking for the next best thing. And the thing that I really admire and appreciate about Tyler was he stuck it out at Butler, and they end up having a better season this year than last year. And I think it just speaks on the leadership that he provides as a senior for Butler.
Gary just put something interesting in the chat. Can I put it on the screen, Gary?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Gary put something interesting in the chat. What do you guys think about this? Why not put CMS in one giant conference? Each team has a rival. They play home and home. Schedules are rotated yearly. Then you can have a true city championship.
Not feasible. Not a bad idea. Not a bad idea, but not feasible. Because then you get in a situation in terms of how authentic of formula do you have for determining playoff representatives, and then that would hurt the whole school system all the way around. You get in a situation, well, I have a 10-2 record in just making up numbers. I have a 10-2 record in conference, but this was my year. I didn't have to play Myers Park and North Mecklenburg. So what, do I get the number 1 in that? So the idea is good. Logistically, it's just not feasible.
Well, that's true, because you would have 21 conference games with Valentine Ridge coming up.
Well, you wouldn't play everybody in conference every year. It would be on a rotating basis. You would have one natural rival. Every school would have a natural rival.
So like North Meck would have Chambers every year.
Every year. If that was their natural rival, then each school. Yeah, and the problem with the natural rivals is some schools are going to claim to have more than one natural rival.
No, it's not so much the natural rival as much as it is
a traditional rival.
As we all know, too, that and we'll just play this out, Chambers and North Mecklenburg, if that's my natural rival, well, I'd much rather like to be, just to make it up, Olympic and why am I blanking? Palisades, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I'd much rather like to be Olympic and Palisades as my natural rival year in and year out, as opposed to Chambers and North Mecklenburg. If I'm going to take a couple losses in 2 really good games with 2 teams or 2 programs traditionally in the state mix like that, and that's going to hurt me at playoff time in the conference. We're not even talking non-conference scheduling right here. But if that's my natural rival, I'd much rather be Jeff Bishop at Olympic with 2 games versus Palisades than Dwayne Lewis at North Mecklenburg with 2 games versus Chambers year in and year out. That's really not fair.
I don't think in high school that can change. That can change greatly.
In cycles. 10
years ago, Olympics undefeated won the championship.
Especially at the high school level, and the games that you wouldn't play conference wise, you could still be like a non-conference game. I know in the ACC a couple years when Carolina and Wake Forest weren't scheduled to play each other, they still played each other as a non-conference game.
Yeah. And
so you still could play local teams. It just wouldn't count as a conference game, but you would get away from this idea that you playing somebody 3-4 times a year. And it would always set up a natural city championship in every sport, not just basketball. It would be in every sport.
Not a bad idea. I can see that.
That's kind of.
I feel like the city championship version a little better, but I don't dislike that.
Yeah, and that was one of the things about equity that people had a concern about was, okay, if you do a city championship for basketball, what about baseball? What about softball? Or what about soccer? And
I can do it in football too. I can do it in
football too. And my argument to that is, then you got to go back to a little bit of common sense. Ain't but 2 sports paying the bills. That's football and basketball.
Yeah, but football, if you set up football where everybody had an open date the last week of the regular season, then you could have like a BCS type of deal where you can match it. There's 22 teams, you can match everybody up and have a football city championship, and also have some really good matchups down the line.
Yeah,
that could be some money makers for everybody in football. And the private schools can even do football if you want them to. They can't do basketball, but it'd be interesting. Speaking of private schools, Richard, That's a nice segue. Here are the private school champions. Girls. Victory Christian won the 1A. O'Neill School won the 2A. Grace Christian won the 3A. Cannon won the 4A. Randall, Grace Christian won their playoff games 87-31, 83-51, 82-33. Is there a girls basketball team in North Carolina that can line up with Grace Christian and say we can really have a shot?
No, absolutely not. Not a chance. This team is a well-oiled machine led by the one Sarah Strong, and there's nobody, and I mean nobody, that can stop this juggernaut.
Cam, you shaking your head. What you got?
I'm in agreement with Randall. You just look at the 4A champion Cannon School. I mean, Grace Christian beat them 72-57. Grace Christian is just on a different level, public or private. I don't think there's anyone within 10 points of them.
All right. The boys side, Richard. Victory Christian won the 1A. I saw that game against United Faith. Davis Day won the 2A. Forsyth Country Day won 3A, beating Gaston Christian, which had made a great run under first-year coach Chris Duhan, the former Duke star. And then Christ School beat Providence Day in the 4A game, another game I saw. What's your takeaway? I know you saw most of these games, Rick. What was your takeaway on the boys side?
Well, if you look at our Sweet 16 or the top 10 in the NCISAA, we've had Christ School as the number one team from start to finish. I thought they were the most balanced team, and Coach John Stooley's done an excellent job at Christ School. I think they have a little bit of an advantage too, because it's a border school. You have all the players that live there on campus, and you got an opportunity to really bond with the players that go to that school versus some of the other ones that don't. But for Forsyth Country Day, I thought this was their year to win it. I thought they had a lot of talent. They were ranked pretty high from beginning to the end. And Doug Eslick, who is a friend of mine, he was a coach at UNC Wilmington at one time. He went from the college to the high school ranks. And, I'm really happy. Both went to Forsyth Country Day. I was really happy for Forsyth.
I thought he was going to get a job in Charlotte at one point. Yeah, he was down in Mercer. Yeah.
He was in the Final Four, from my understanding, but it all worked out. He went to Forsyth Country Day, and he's done a really remarkable job there. You look at Davis and Day. Davis and Day's had a lot of success in the past, and they sort of fell by the wayside a little bit. But James Long came in there. He added a few pieces to the puzzle. He got Isaiah Dennis and a few others, and they won the 2A state championship, and they also played a very difficult schedule. And I think if you look at all these schools, you look at their strength of schedule, all these teams had a very tough strength of schedule. They played a lot of tough teams, and I think it helped prepare them for their state championship run.
Rick, do you think Christ School's ready to do another one of those 07 to 11 runs when nobody else could touch them for 5 years?
I'm not sure about that, because I think right now at the private school level, it is so balanced. Like I said earlier, I think, they have an advantage since, that, it's a school that, the kids, stay there. I think that's the biggest difference, and they can, develop that chemistry and bond. And the kids can go work out a lot on their free time.
Yeah.
But, I think the thing with Christ School, they have a very good coach. They're balanced. They've done a good job getting kids from North Carolina, South Carolina, other areas. And, it's a situation at the private school level. I think it's just so balanced. It's like, even this year, although I felt like Christ School was the team to win, I think if you look at the 1A, the 2A, and even the 3A, it could have been anybody's opportunity to win a state championship this year.
All right, we call Alex Mr. Contrarian, and I just asked Randall about Grace Christian and the girls. Alex thinks there's a girls team that could handle, or two that can handle Grace Christian. So Alex, go ahead and be Mr. Contrarian.
Well, it's not about being Mr. Contrarian. It's about speaking reality. And the reality is I take my chances with both Mallard Creek and Panther Creek lining up against Grace Christian. And here's why. Everyone wants to discuss Grace Christian within the context of Sarah Strong, who unequivocally is the country's best player. There's no question.
I'm going to say not just the state.
There's no question about that.
Yeah.
But what we have to discuss at the same time, nobody wants to discuss the other players on Grace Christian. I'm speaking specifically of the likes of their point guard, Issa Roman, and their power forward, Issa Storm. Issa Storm is the perfect complement to Strong, particularly on the interior. And Issa Roman is an exceptional floor leader with a very capable shot and is a great passer as well. So no one wants to talk about that. The reality in terms of matching up with Grace Christian is how well can you match up with Strong, Roman, and a few other players on that team. I think Mallard Creek and Panther Creek can do that. Sarah Strong is going to get hers. But what makes Sarah Strong a triple elite player, she's the best player in the country, we know that, is her ability to get other players involved with her sharp passing. And that creates opportunities for players like Roman and Storm, who just take that team to an exceedingly high level. No question about that. So,
the fact that the other thing about Grace Christian is these girls have been playing together year round. I mean, Isis and Roman were at 2 late additions to the AAU team, but for the most part, a lot of those kids have been playing together, minus Emerson Thompson, year round. So it's not, they've been through the fights. They've been through the fires.
And that's why Charlotte Catholic football is so good, because those kids play together year round. They've been together for years and years and years. That's the advantage.
So all I'm saying is I take my chances with Mallard Creek and Panther Creek being able to match up with Storm and Roman and go from there. I didn't guarantee an outcome. I did not guarantee an outcome, but I will take my chances with them being in a position to match up with Storm and Roman. Obviously, I mean, with Stone on the Mallard Creek side, with Olivia Tucker and Kirsten Smalls, Taylor Bronner, we all know about her, and go from there. It's about matchups. I didn't predict an outcome. I'd like to see those games.
Interesting to play.
McNair, Strong, Storm, Roman. That's a tough ass, Alex.
15 points.
I'll take the chances with Tucker, Rick, and Barner.
Interesting discussion. Rick, when I was in Raleigh yesterday, I had 2 coaches and a couple of fans come up to me with the idea that you have talked about for a while. They said, why don't we take the winners of the private school championship and have a special super tournament where you take the 4 champions and put them in a super bracket. What do you think about that, Rick?
I think it's a great idea. And I'll tell you the reason why. I think, if you look at the landscape along the high school basketball, not just public schools, but even the private schools that they're in the NCISAA, you have the overtime league and you have a lot of the top players going in those type of situations. You got the non-association teams sort of, bleeding off some of the public and private school teams too. I think sometimes you got to think outside the box and create something that would be very exciting for the association. And I think this would be an opportunity for the private schools to have something that would be very unique, sort of like what they do in Indiana, where they have one true champion. And what you could do is you would have basically 4 games on Friday, and then in 2 games on Saturday determine who the ultimate champion of the NCISAA. And I think all the coaches in the association would be in favor of it. I think it would be something exciting. I think all the coaches would get behind it. And, they still win their state championship, but you extend the season 1 more week, and the revenue that could be made off of it could be, used to the school to help the non-revenues sports out as well.
Randall, if you had this at, I don't know, Charlotte Latin Providence Day, one of the bigger local private school gyms, what kind of crowd would you have? How much excitement would you have? How big a deal would this be?
I mean, in most years, it would be a sellout. We talked about, maybe, it's down, but I mean, I'm looking at this O'Neill Grace Christian matchup and the way that they beat people in the state final. I would love to see that game. And then, you get Davidson Day and Forsyth, 2 younger teams, that matchup is very interesting. I think it's a great idea. I do think the coaches be behind it. And I think the biggest thing for me is it's just something new. And I think, sometimes new is good. And so adding extra week on,
new is scary for so many people, but new can be good. At one point in time, they said, let's put 64 teams in the NCAA tournament. No, that's crazy. So I think sometimes, you do have to embrace new, especially nowadays when it's so tough to, support your program, make money. Cam is going off.
If you look at that matchup on the boys' side, Christ School versus 1A Victory, Victory did beat and upset Christ School early in the year.
There you go. I didn't know that, but there you go. All right, Cam's going off Skip Bayless on me saying my turn. So let's go, Cam. I'm put you on the one shot. Your turn.
Rick stole my point. Move along.
Oh man, I know that.
Yes, that was what I was going to say, and I was also going to say that Davidson Day played a very close game with Christ School, only lost by 3 to them. So I think the boys' tournament would be very intriguing, and Christ School could get their get back against Victory Christian. But thanks, Rick.
I think that I mean, really, if the private school, if Omar thinks that the executive director, he thinks that this would be good, they could do it. I think this would be great. I mean, just a phenomenal idea.
Well, Langston, unlike the public school where you do have,
there's a lot less bureaucracy.
The 4A is going to be much stronger than some of the lower, 3A, 2A, 1A. But at the private school sector, the 1A, 2A, 3A, and 4A is very balanced. And if you look at basically our top 10 in the NCISAA, the 2A might have been the toughest division this season for the private schools.
I agree. Absolutely.
The season ends with the state championship, period.
In your world,
the NCHSAA and NCISAA season, sure.
In Alex's world,
ends with
Alex, the one thing I can tell you is that this really can happen.
Its season 2 weeks longer than the private school, and I know the private school starts 1 week sooner. So if the private schools just extended it 1 more week, it would still be the same number of weeks at the public school.
The NCISAA does not have a season game limit for its players, unlike the NCHSAA.
Yes, they do. They do this year.
What was I did not realize that. What is
they did institute this year.
This year? Okay.
Yeah.
I take back that statement. But I do stand by the prevailing sentiment. The season ends with the state championship. Let these kids go do something else. That's
what they're going to do, Alex? You know what they're going to do? They're going to go play more basketball. That's what they're going to do. They're going to go play AAU. That's what they're going to do all summer.
That's fine. That's fine.
One more week with this, the private school, the public school still going on. I think it'd be great. That's my opinion. It's time for the round table. All right, so the brackets are out. Alex and Cam, 1A, 2. Let's start 1A girls. Anything jumping out at you guys? 1A girls, East or West in the bracket? Bishop McGinnis. Is this the Bishop McGinnis Invitational again?
Go for it, Cam.
I think it could be. I mean, I do the girls' state and Sweet 16 rankings every week, and Bishop McGinnis is always towards the top. So it's going to be tough for anyone to beat them. I don't know if there's anyone that can.
Falls Lake? No, maybe.
And possibly Falls Lake would be the one. They'd be the one that I would pick.
Falls Lake be the one. All right. Looking at the 2A, any thoughts there, Cam or Alex?
Alex, you take this one.
Not a whole lot really is jumping out. Obviously, Seaforth's in a good position once again. Whoever comes out of that Rowan County deal, Salisbury will always be in the mix.
Yeah.
That same cluster in the foothills part of the state, Salisbury, East Rutherford, that whole Shelby. I mean, you're going to beat up each other as always. It's a mini fight club. We like to talk about the fight club during football season.
Football reference, yeah, I like it.
The 2A girls draw, particularly in the West, always is like that. Who can come out of that deal? And I like Seaforth in the East, and we go from there.
Cam says we're having
don't sleep on East Burke. Don't sleep on East Burke.
I was thinking about East Burke. They're always really good. Cam says we're having a round table the whole time, so I just put the theme in a little too late. Cam, is that what it was?
I think Seaforth, with what happened to them last year in the state final, I think they're going to be determined to get back there for sure.
All right, 3A, Cam, what do you see there?
I love the way RPI really throws off brackets for all sports. I think West Rowan's the clear one in the West, in my opinion. I mean, and that's no slight to AC Reynolds. They played a tough schedule. They beat a lot of tough teams, including Myers Park. But I think it's West Rowan's to lose on the West side, and any team that faces them from the East side is going to have a tall task.
All right. 4A, this is the bracket I think we're going to pay the most attention to. Alex, is it just Panther Creek on the eastern side, or is there a team that you think that maybe could give them a run for their money?
This Panther Creek situation, I don't want to align these two teams directly,
Okay.
but think back to the 90-91 UNLV team, which, and I'll go ahead and acknowledge for Cameron here, was defeated in the national semifinal by Duke.
Yeah.
But
that was a nightmare. No, the Shark was the year before. Dreaming About Sharks, that was the year before.
But my prevailing point is Panther Creek is just too tough of a matchup. When you can go point, wing, post with Taylor Barner, Olivia Tucker, the Campbell signee, and Kirsten Smalls, who is a
fast. That's the thing. It's
just two-time indoor track and field high jump state champ Kirsten Smalls. When you can go point, wing, post like that, that's a formidable challenge for anyone to match up against.
I haven't seen a girls team in the public schools that athletic since the West Charlotte. What was that 09 team with
Crystal Caldwell 09?
That's the last time I saw a team that athletic. When I saw them last year, I was just like, whoa, that's different. Let's flip it to the West side. Gary, is anybody? Well, let me rephrase. Gary, who do you think is going to do well on the Western side? Not just one team, but the 2 or 3 teams you think might do well.
Of course, Mallard Creek. Catholic, Independent.
Let me stop you 1 second. Mallard Creek has to play North Meck probably in round 2 or round 3.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. And you know, we're gonna talk about it in a little bit about the selection committee, but I didn't see the game, so I can't comment on what was different. I know that Mallard Creek was 20 points better, you know, the previous 2 games. So I'm thinking that Mallard Creek may have had a little bit of a letdown Friday night for whatever reason.
Is it possible though that kids just, you know, we beating this team by 20, by 15, and they don't pose a challenge? Same with Mars Park boys and RGK Friday. I mean, and taking nothing away from those other teams, it's just they get a little bored.
Yeah, it gets like our guest said, it gets repetitive, you know. And maybe they took it for granted. We always know that Jennifer Baker's teams are going to play hard.
Yeah.
But Mallard Creek is used to North Meck. Now, the problem, and this is what several coaches told me around January, is with the girls being so top heavy in every conference, they weren't seeing tough competition not even on a weekly basis. So it takes a while. It takes a while to get ramped back up to that level of competition when you've been winning by 30 or 40 points.
All right, that leads me to my next question. I'm going to advance North Meck and Watauga to round 2. North Meck has to go up to the mountains, and they got to play one of the if I was naming the top 10 players in North Carolina, Watauga has one of them in Kate Sears. I got a favorite lefty in North Meck, but if Kate's in that area, she might be my favorite lefty still. Do you think North Meck is going to just be clear-cut favorite to beat Watauga at Watauga, and Kate Sears going to go for 40?
No, and here's why. Traditionally, Charlotte teams have always had problems going up to the mountains to play those teams, and the reason for it is they call the games differently. Charlotte teams tend to be more physical. I know North Meck is very physical, and that whistle is going to blow, and it's hard for kids to adjust to the officiating when they've been playing one style for 3 or 4 months, and then all of a sudden every little touch is a foul.
Well, I'm telling you, in a close game, that child making them from 30, it gets disappointing.
Yeah.
When you play good defense, you just pulling up from 30 and running back.
Aside from being a good team, Watauga, like I said, it's the officiating that North is going to have to deal with, and North is a very physical team.
Okay, so you said North Meck, Mallard Creek, and I interrupted you. Tell me the other teams you think you're going to do well.
Independence, I think will do well because they can score from all over the floor.
Yeah.
And they're fast. Catholic,
and they're going to play Catholic in round 3 again.
Yeah, and Catholic, of course, with that outstanding size and versatility, is going to be tough. Myers Park, if they get the right matchups, you're talking about the best coach in the state in Barbara Nelson. It's several teams that from this area that could do well. It just depends on the matchup.
Randall, Blanca Thomas had the flu, was not herself in the Southwestern 4A Conference tournament. This is her senior year. They've been to the regional finals the past 2 years. Obviously, she wants to go out as a state champion. If she's healthy, is she going to be able to ramp her game up to a level that's going to get her past, Independence and all these other teams and get to a regional championship game, a third straight one, maybe, and even a Lake Norman down the road?
She's gonna have to. I mean, it's gonna start and finish with her. She's gonna have to be good, and she's gonna have to be dominant on both ends of the floor. If she has one of these games where she's just 7 for 11, they're gonna be in trouble.
What's the number you're looking for? Is it 20 and 10? Is it 30 and 20? I mean, what is it? What is you? What is?
I think
it's Shaq. Is she gonna have to go Shaq in the
yeah.
playoffs?
I mean, I think for me it's 24 and 14.
24.
I feel like, and if you put up those numbers, you're impacting the game on both ends of the floor, and you're putting your mark on it. And the one thing that Catholic has that these other teams don't have is size, and they have to exploit that. They got to take advantage of being just bigger and more physical than everybody else, and kind of they're going to have to will their way to a title run.
Yeah, Cam, is there an upset in round 1 and round 2? Did you see?
Let me look through here real quick.
Well, while Cam's looking for that, I'm gonna tell you the game that I'm hoping we get. Okay. I'm hoping that Myers Park and Porter Ridge both win Tuesday night, because Porter Ridge going to Myers Park Friday would be an excellent game. Myers Park is so good defensively, and Porter Ridge has some girls on their team that can really just score the basketball. Mm-hmm. And so it's a matchup that was the first matchup that really jumped out at me when I looked at the brackets yesterday, because I was like, this could be a game where you just it's just back and forth all night long.
Okay, well, you calling chalk, Cam. You seeing the upset stuff?
I'm really not.
Now, even round, like, let's say if the favorites advance to round 2, do you see any upsets there? I think I see one. I North Meck Watauga game. I know North Meck is going to be the favorite of a higher seed, but I can see Watauga winning that game.
Yeah, but even Audrey Kell over Northern Guilford possibly in the second round. Let's see. I mean, I don't think they'll win, but Hickory Ridge could give Catholic a little bit of trouble if Juke puts together his best game plan. But my point was, I mean, two teams we hadn't said anything about was until Randall just did, but Myers Park and Lake Norman. I mean, two teams that I think could really make some noise. I mean, Lake Norman's only lost to one team in North Carolina, and it was in their conference championship to Hickory Ridge. So, I mean, I think Lake
Norman's going to see Catholic or Independence, I would think, in that, the quarterfinal?
Yeah, I tend to think it'll be either one of two of those teams.
I'm telling you, Independence, we talk about 1-2 punches. Independence has a 1-2 punch as well. And I think if those girls get rolling, they're not that big, but those girls and Lake Norman's not that big, so that could be a good matchup. Those girls get rolling. That could be very interesting. I think the girls bracket this year in some ways could be more exciting than the boys bracket, other than one.
Yeah.
Other than one.
I mean, I know. Other
than one particular game, I think that the girls bracket.
I know there aren't 7 teams better than Mallard Creek. I know that. And I know we get mad about seedings, but I think if I'm Mallard Creek, I'm an AC. It doesn't bother me at all. Matchup wise, I would love our matchup. Playing North Meck for a 4th time,
I wouldn't love that.
It is worrisome, but if North Meck was to lose to Watauga, I would love my chances to find.
All right, let me ask you this, Randall, though, because my theory is that these teams are a little bit bored of playing the same competition, but when you get into the playoffs, that focus comes back, right?
Well, the focus definitely comes back. I was talking to somebody today, and they're going to play a team for the 4th time, and it has been stated that it'll be a lot different the 4th time, and it's different. You're in the state playoffs, that focus comes. You get to play at the crib, so. I think the 4th time is a little different, but I mean, beating a team 4 times is a tough task.
Absolutely.
No matter what the situation is.
And I hate seeing that. If we had a city championship, we wouldn't have those problems. Yeah. That's another story. All right, 1A boys. Cam, what do you see here? Is he squinting?
Well, I mean, I got to squint. The print's real small, but it's going to be hard to knock off Wilson Prep.
I forgot you. They're always good. They're always there.
they've played great. I mean, they play well every year, but this season in particular, they played extremely well. I think they're my pick if I had to, just pick one team right now to win it.
Yeah. Rick, what do you think about 1A boys?
Well, you have Wilson Prep defending state champion in 1A. I think the Western Regional is going to be really, really tough. You look at South Stokes, they've only lost one game. They split with Mount Tabor, which is a 4A. I think they're seeded number 4 in the 4A West. They split with them during the course of the season. They're a very dangerous team. And our friend Ron Murphy has done an excellent job over at Corvian Community. And Bishop McGinnis, they have 3 losses, but the 3 losses came to 4A powered teams. So there's really 3 teams I think could legitimately come out of the West. I think the East, Wilson Prep is heavily favored.
All right, let's go to the 2A. Rick, what are you thinking in the 2A, East and West?
Well, if you look at the 2A, the teams out of the East is naturally going to be Farmville Central. You look at the seeding purpose, Goldsboro's number 2, West Bladen's number 3, Northwood with Drake Powell's number 4. They got hurt by not playing a very strong schedule in state. They did some traveling out of the state, which doesn't calculate into the RPI analytics. I think it's going to come down to Farmville Central and Northwood in the East. And then in the West, it's going to come down to 2 teams. It's going to come down to Reidsville, who went to the state championship last year, and the other team that's playing really well is Salisbury. They've only lost 3 games, and you got Wake Forest signee Jude Harris. Now the thing about Salisbury, they have 3 losses, but those 3 losses were, again, they enhanced their out of conference schedule and played 3 really good 4A teams during the course of the season.
All right, let's look at the 3A bracket. Now, Cam, I'll let you talk about 3A on the west side. I'm sure you think it's going to be Central Cabarrus, right?
It's hard to bet against them. I think Central Cabarrus is one of those teams that could compete in the 4A bracket. They're just super talented. They press the entire game. I don't see how some of them boys don't need oxygen going to the sidelines as fast and just as hard as they play. And, another instance where RPI, factors in opponents and all this stuff because Hickory's got the 1 seed there. But I think it's Central Cabarrus is probably better than the majority of these teams by 10 plus points. I said it last year, and I think the same holds true this year.
Rick, a Central Cabarrus Hickory matchup in the regional final, what would that look like?
Well, I will say one thing about Hickory. They're very well coached. They're 27-0, and we had a chance to see them. They played in the Carmel MLK. They're a very disciplined half-court team that runs their sets. The thing about Central Cabarrus that makes them so dangerous is you cannot prepare for Central Cabarrus. I had an interesting conversation, and I won't name the coach's name, but he's an assistant coach, but they're one of the top 4 teams in the state at the 4A level. And he made the comment, he goes, Rick, there's no 4A team in the state that will want to play Central Cabarrus because the way they play hard, they play together, and they're just a unique style of basketball. But more importantly, you look at the Daniel twins, they're still going 100 miles an hour with 10 seconds to go in the game. If they're in the game, most of the time they're not in the game because of the sports are lopsided.
Right.
I agree with Cameron. I think Central Cabarrus is just a unique team. They're nationally ranked. I think Hickory can give them a very good game. It's going to be depending so much if can Hickory control the tempo and not
turn the ball over.
Cabarrus turn them over. Yeah. Because the other thing I want to mention about Central Cabarrus, they are the best passing team I've seen in probably 10 to 15 years. They are so unselfish. They pass the ball. It's every possession. It's 5, 6, 7 passes. The ball doesn't touch the floor.
Alex, on the east side, what's happening in the 3A East? Anybody jumping out at you? Who's going to challenge Central Cabarrus and or Hickory, or who'll join them in the regionals?
I'm really intrigued by this Swansboro team. They're very underclassmen laden team, 4 juniors among their starting lineup, including Tavion Tangiora, a 6'7" bona fide pivot man who gives the Pirates that balance that a lot of teams look for in the interior in terms of him being able to make something happen himself or being able to demand the ball, get the catch, draw the double team, and kick it back out to a shooter or to a cutter. So I like Swansboro. I do believe whomever comes out of the East will have a formidable challenge in whether it's Hickory, whether it's Central Cabarrus, or whether it's somebody else who comes out of the West. But Swansboro is a very, very intriguing team. And in the 3A classification, might be the Lake Norman 3A. They're a year away. Their golden opportunity. Right. But whomever comes out of the East, it's going to be a formidable challenge.
I tell you what, I mean, shout out to Q-Tuck. I just love this format we're going to get where you can see all the regional games, used to be regionals in Greenville and Hickory or wherever they are. Now you can see them. The opponents can see them. The scouting is a lot easier. You don't have to worry about, trading film. I just love that idea of bringing everybody together to see everything. All right, Alex, 4A East, what do you say?
On paper, Richmond County is the team to beat until somebody comes along and does otherwise. Richmond does have what could be a challenging bracket, a third round potential visit by Cap 6 champion Cardinal Gibbons. If things line up that way, that could be a good game right there. Other than that, if you look in the top half of the bracket, the opportunity for a New Hanover Millbrook fourth round game at New Hanover is very, very intriguing. So Richmond, they get through that third round game. New Hanover, Millbrook, it all depends. Like I said, I'd circle my calendar for a Cardinal Gibbons Richmond third round game and see what comes out of there, and a New Hanover Millbrook fourth round game and go from there. Green level has been very, very good and could be awaiting the winner of that Richmond Cardinal Gibbons third round game. So look for that quintet or so of teams.
Of all the playoff brackets in the state, obviously the 4A West is going to be the toughest, Gary. Of these first round games, is there one that really jumps out at you that you think that this is the place to be on Tuesday night?
Not in the first round. What disturbs me more about the first round is you got a situation like Hopewell and Chambers playing each other. The last game Hopewell played was versus Chambers. And now they got to play them again for the fourth time without their best player, Quay Watson, who's been injured for the last 10 days, and I don't think he's going to play in the playoffs. I mean, that's what bothers me. That's why we need a selection committee.
Well, hold that thought. We're coming back. Hold that thought.
Yeah, but nothing jumps out at me in the first round. No.
All right, Rick, give us your expertise here on the 4A bracket, and what do you think is going to happen here in the first couple rounds?
Well, if you look at the top 5 seeds in the West, you have Myers Park, Lake Norman, Weddington, Mount Tabor, and they lost twice this year to Lake Norman. But they're the number 4 seed, and you have North Mech at 5. It's one of these things that's interesting. Like if the higher seed, I'm just saying it hypothetically, so we don't want to get anybody upset, but hypothetically speaking, you're probably going to have in the, I think the fourth round, you're probably going to have Mount Tabor possibly playing North Mech. So North Mech's going to have to probably go on the road to play Mount Tabor at Mount Tabor. And then if they win that game, they're going to have to go on the road again and play Myers Park at Myers Park.
Well, Alex, in the regular season, Lake Norman was upset, and it really altered the dynamic of the playoffs. What do you think about that loss Lake Norman took? Then they come back and beat the same team pretty handily after that.
Lake Norman's in a great situation in terms of if you look at the Wildcats' overall draw. If you were to tell me that by whatever circumstances and whatever happened with one team or another, that I would have a road that would include a first round game at Parkland, a first round game versus Parkland, a second round game versus East Forsyth or South Caldwell, a third round game versus Davie, Northern Guilford, Grimsley, or Page, and then the opportunity for what on paper, hypothetically, I'm not projecting it, could be a fourth round game home versus Weddington.
So had they not lost Mooresville, though, they would not have had such a favorable draw, is what you're saying.
It does appear that way. I think one thing that we have to keep in mind in this age of technology is the growing availability of public information in real time, particularly the ratings percentage index, and the wonderful job that our student athletes do in terms of optimizing the prevailing mission of education-based athletics, which is the transferring of the skills that they learn in the classroom, specifically analysis, and being able to transfer that over beyond the classroom and look at real world data and go from there. I mean, that's a testament to our student athletes and the way that they learn and they thrive. So it's hard to say from situations.
So you're trying to say that they look at the bracket and try to determine if we go here, this is who we'll play? Is that what you're saying?
I believe in the aptitudes and abilities of our student athletes. I really do.
So that is what you're saying.
And what I'm saying is that we're in a new age in terms of availability of public information. And our student athletes are to be commended anytime that they transfer skills from the traditional classroom into real world contexts and go from there. So let's just always be mindful of that. We're in a new age in the whole scope of high school athletics. And it's always good to see any time when our students transfer what they learn in a traditional classroom and apply it in real world context. We hope that they continue to do that in college and in their professional endeavors.
All right, Cam, you can put some dressing on that word salad. Go ahead.
Can I say, yeah, I was going to mention one thing. I said, if you look at the way the RPI system or analytics work, you're going to have to be in a situation that if you want to get the higher seed, you're going to have to play a tougher non-conference schedule with teams in the state of North Carolina where the analytics are in your favor. Give you a good example. Mount Tabor is seated ahead of North Meck. Now, personally, do I think North Meck's a better team? Absolutely. But if you look at the strength of schedule of teams out of conference that help your analytics, Mount Tabor played Lake Norman twice.
No, Rick, but I think the question is, are teams trying to game the system and say, if we get seated here, we'll play these teams and have this team at home, and I don't have to play these two teams?
Absolutely not.
No,
I think for me personally, as a coach,
if
I'm coaching, I'm worried about one thing. If I'm playing, no matter who it is, and there's 1,000 people there, as a coach, my competitive juices are saying, I'm going to win the game.
Right.
And the other thing, too, is the players on each individual team, they're all worried about their individual stats. So, a player's not going to sit there and say, hey, I'm going to miss a shot on purpose. Every kid wants to score as many points as he possibly can.
Right.
And, at the end of the day, I'm going to use a good analogy. It's just like the NCAA when they have Selection Sunday and all the sportscasters come on and they basically dissect each individual bracket. And they go, one region of the country is easier than this one. It's an easier pass to the Final Four. How many times do we have the number one seed from each region actually making it to the Final Four?
Not a lot.
There's always upset. And here's the thing. When the playoffs come, there's a different mindset and psyche for players. During the regular season, they play footloose, fancy-free. They're a lot looser. When playoffs come, the rims get smaller and your nerves get tighter. And those things you can't take in consideration. And there's going to be a lot of upsets along the way. It happens every year, and I don't think this year will be any different.
Gary,
I think the problem comes in where we say, hey, teams got to play a tougher schedule. And what happens is some of our best teams, they think playing a tougher schedule means going to Florida, going to Virginia, or going to Massachusetts to play tougher. And they are playing tougher teams, but those teams aren't calculated in the state's RPI. That's the problem. Correct. And what Rick is saying is right. You got to play tougher teams in North Carolina, not nationwide. You get the prestige and you get the national rankings because
kids want to do that, though, Gary. Kids want to play those games nationwide.
I know, and
nobody's going to turn down going to Florida. I mean,
I understand that. I'm not blaming them.
But there's still a way to do both. There's still a way to do both.
Yeah, absolutely.
There is.
And I will give Scott Taylor credit at Myers Park. He did a very nice job of blending in a tough schedule out of state, also blending in a very tough schedule in state. And that's why he has the number 1 seed.
Yeah. Cam.
Well, I mean, I was going to do some projecting. I'm in enough sound bits already. I mean, I don't care if I offend anybody. Yeah, I think it's going to be Myers Park and North Mech, and then Weddington and Lake Norman. Having to pick which game to go to is going to be fun because both those games are really intriguing. I'm sure Lake Norman rather wants some get back. So I'm looking forward to it. I think Chambers could have a little something to say if they get everybody playing together. But state champion, that's going to be the tough one. I don't know if it's either going to be Myers Park or North Mech, in my opinion.
Yeah. All right. Well, wait a minute. I took out the wrong person. Alex, are you ready to play Christy since Christy's not here today?
I will do my best.
All right. Here we go.
And once again, these two gentlemen need no introduction. Randall Clark and Gary Richmond. I'm the one who needs the introduction. I am not Christy Mitchell. I am nowhere near the caliber of Christy Mitchell. I am Alex Bass, but I need the introduction. All right, so it's playoff time. Coach versus coach. So our first coach versus coach. We were just talking about a North Mecklenburg Myers Park game in the playoffs. Now that we know that it will not happen in Winston-Salem in a 14,000 seat arena, now that we know that it will happen in Mecklenburg County should these teams advance to that point, should Charlotte Mecklenburg schools, and we know who will have to lead this, make a plan to move it? Gary.
No. He said, Gary, no. 2 years ago, Myers Park had to go to North. Last year, they met at a neutral site. It's only right. Year 3, North's got to go to Myers Park. No, they should not move this game. If you want to go see it, you're going to have to get there at 4:30 or 5 o'clock like the rest of us. Absolutely not. This game should be played in the stadium.
Gary.
Well, the only contingency CMS ever has is for weather. You know, whether we're going to school or not, because there's snow on the ground. So, no, they're not going to make a contingency for it because it's a quarterfinal game and not a regional game. And Myers Park has earned the through their record of having a home court, and they're not going to move it. Whether it would be in the best interest of the public or not, they're not going to move it because they don't operate in those type of contingencies. The problem we have with the sellouts that I learned about recently is, especially like what happened at Providence last year when North and Myers Park played, is they sell the tickets online, but they don't take into consideration how many coaches come, and coaches get in free. Okay, so if just say we're going to use a rough number, say the gym seats 1,500. Well, if 200 coaches show up with their coaches pass, they're getting in. So that means 200 people that bought a ticket online are not getting in because the fire marshal is not going to allow it. So that's where the problem comes in with the attendance. Coaches that belong to the Coaches Association, and I'm one of them. I got a gold card, which means I get in everything free. And you know, if I show up, that's somebody that bought a ticket that's not going to get in. So that's where the problem comes in. Not that I don't want the coaches to get in, but they need to make a contingency to understand that coaches are going to show up with their passes because they want to see the game too, from all sports. And that coach's pass, as you know, Alex, entitles them the right to get in.
Let me ask one more follow-up on this, a comment Gary made, that it's not a regional championship game, which it's not. Do you think that this circumstance, which is very unique, should warrant a kind of thinking on the old model where a state semifinal was a regional quarterfinal, which was played in a neutral venue because of these unique circumstances. Randall, start us off, then Gary, respond.
Gary, go first.
I'm still waiting to see how this new system is going to work out. I'm a traditionalist in most instances, and I prefer the old way because usually in the regionals you were guaranteed to be in a bigger gym, and so rarely. The only thing I hated about it back then is you usually had two Charlotte teams that had to go 2 hours away to play each other when they could have played right here in town. But I'm in a wait and see mode to see how this is going to work out. I'm not going to be a Debbie Downer and a naysayer until after I see how it works after 1 year.
Randall.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was never a big fan of driving 2 hours to go see two teams that were right here in Charlotte. I'm hoping that it works out, though. I think it on paper was a good idea, but I'm kind of taking more Gary's stance of just kind of waiting and seeing how it all plays out this first year.
We shall see. All right, moving on to our next question right here. Kind of along the lines of what we just talked about. Should the NCHSAA's 1 week kind of Final Four plan where you have the regional championship and then the state championship stay in Winston-Salem? This is the first year doing it. It's going to be in Winston-Salem, March 11th through the 16th. Or should it move around to other cities? Randall, you want to start us?
I think they should do what the independent schools do. Like every year it rotates. So I think, you can do Winston-Salem 1 year, you can do Raleigh 1 year, you can do Greensboro 1 year, and you can do Charlotte, and just rotate it that way between the 3 and 4 cities, just to give everybody kind of a chance to go places. And some people got to travel a little farther sometimes, some people don't, and vice versa.
Gary?
I would rotate it on a 2-year basis. You're going to do it in Winston this year. There are going to be a lot of hiccups because it's the first time. The second time, you improve on, you know where your problems are, and you can address them that second year so you don't run into the same problems you had the first year. Then you pass that information along to the next city. I do like rotating it from east to west, so to speak. Greensboro is really right in the middle of the population center of North Carolina, halfway, from east and west. I do like Greensboro if you're going to only be in one site. But I like Charlotte to get it sometimes. I don't have a problem with Raleigh getting it sometimes. I just don't think you want to go to the periphery of the state where you got it in Wilmington 1 year or you got it in Asheville 1 year. I think that may be a little too far east or west.
I agree.
All right. I think we got one more question here today. All right. I think we all can agree that none of us have anything good to say about what happened at the end of the Duke at Wake Forest game on Saturday. And if anyone doesn't know, it is that as Wake Forest fans stormed the Joel Coliseum court, that Duke pivot man Kyle Filipowski sustained an injury. And we send our very best to him. But at the same time, we have to look at this reality right here of what caused it and what we do about it. Should court storming on the books as a rule with penalty be banned in high school and college basketball? Gary?
Well, there's a lot of things that are banned in life. Assault is banned, murder is banned, speeding is banned, but people still do it. So saying court storming is banned is not going to stop it. Okay, you got to have some stronger consequences for a ban to work. Okay, those kids, they have it in the SEC about storming the football field and storming the court. Those kids don't care that their athletic department got to pay $100,000 or $200,000 for storming the field or storming the court because the SEC is printing money. Okay, so Can you ban it? Yeah, you can ban it, but unless you have consequences, and then who you gonna give the consequence to? You gonna give it to the school or you gonna give it to the individuals? Now it was probably I don't know 500-600 people that ran out on the court yesterday at Wake Forest. You can't lock them all up because you can't catch all of them. So I think the problem comes in where the school didn't do enough things adequately beforehand. They knew they had a chance to beat Duke. They know what that means in that Wake Forest Duke rivalry to beat Duke. They hadn't beaten them in a long time. They should have had more security and ropes already set up in the last minute of the game. Regardless,
that's right
the problem. Wake Forest wasn't
right there. They weren't prepared at all, which is a tragedy in itself. I'm not big on court storming, but I understand it's part of it. Cool. I don't have a problem. With you storming the court when you get a big victory. But this is my thing. As a school, you have to do a better job of protecting all the players. So all the players need to be off the floor. You can't have a bunch of people running on the floor as a kid's trying to get to his sideline to walk back to the locker room. That's what can't happen. I understand, like you said, Gary, I don't know if you can stop it, but you have to at least have people in place to say, hey, listen, we got to let these kids get off the floor. We got to let this team get off the court. And then once the players and the coaches are out of harm's way,
I think in the past, I remember the first time I saw. Hold on, Gary. I remember the first time I saw that in the past. Dean Smith used to call a timeout, or maybe it was Dean Smith. Somebody I saw called a timeout because they knew they were about to win the game, and they knew the kids were going to storm the court. And he would go shake the hand of the opponent and go in the back because he knew they were about to come onto the court. But you couldn't do that yesterday because of a 2-point game. You couldn't have done that.
No, so I get it, and that's what I'm saying. I understand that point, but
because the Wake Forest guys went and laid it up through the court storming, and they were on the floor before the clock went off.
Yeah, and I was about to say, speaking of Wake Forest, it's a Wake Forest thing. Yeah. My daughter played at Wingate, and they upset Wake Forest at Wake Forest, and the Wingate kids stormed the court at Wake Forest, and they couldn't stop them, and it was only 50.
I mean, to your point, Gary, the young lady from LSU, the basketball player, she stormed the court.
Angel Reese,
she stormed the court the other day. I think court storming is a part. I mean, I've done when I was in college, I stormed the court. I mean, it's just a rite of passage.
And that's why I said you can't get rid of it.
I hate that somebody got hurt.
You got to do a better job of protecting the
Caitlin Clark got knocked down the other day. Somebody is going to get hurt on these court storming things.
Unacceptable. It is not a rite of passage. It is abominable. It is disrespectful to the game, and it can, secondary to somebody getting hurt, it can become criminal. It's trespassing.
Something bad could happen. I can see that. Richard, you're the voice of reason normally. What's your thoughts here on court storming?
I agree with both sides of the equation. I think the thing about it is Wake Forest has to do a better job, especially at the end of the game where it's going to be a very close game. You're going to have additional security on the baseline, and so you can, rope it off as well. But that's the thing that you have to do is preparation. It's just like anything else. When you're doing an event, you got to anticipate what could happen, and they didn't do that.
Cam, you're against court storming, I know.
Yeah, and I mean, this is one of the very few times that I agree with Alex on something, but I agree wholeheartedly. I think that no student athlete should have to be fearful of getting trampled after a game. I mean, give them 15 to 20 seconds. Let them get out of the gym before you come onto the court like that's something fun to do. I mean,
but how did you stop those kids yesterday? To Gary's point, there's 400, 500, 600 of them. How you stop them? Because you can see them inching down. You can see them. You know what's about to happen. So how do you
security bring out your baton and start whacking some of them? Anyway, I digress.
Listen, that's
talking about lawsuit.
Hey, if that was a UNC player, Cam would take a different approach.
No player should get injured because of fans.
Go
No.
ahead, Gary. Go ahead,
And
Gary.
those students at Wake Forest are paying about $50,000 to $60,000 a year. You're not going to whack somebody that's giving the university $50,000 to $60,000 a year. Okay, that's not going to happen.
No, that'd be a
Best
big
thing
fat
you
lawsuit.
can do.
There'd be a big fat lawsuit coming out.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
let
All right, let-
football
let-
fans storm the field when they beat Clemson
Let me
this year.
change the topic. Let me change the topic. I want to go back and hear from Rick on this one because you do. I mean, Rick Lewis runs some of the best tournaments in North Carolina, bar none. Rick, if you're sitting in Charlotte Mecklenburg schools, you know the North Meck and Mars Park can play, and you know what happened last year when Providence played and Grandma couldn't get in the game and everybody's upset, and Channel 9, Channel 3, 36, all these stories about the game's overcrowded, people couldn't get in to pay their money. You have that history in your mind. Would you make plans right now to move this game? There is a college gym that's literally across the street from Mars Park that sits twice a week.
The problem is trying to see if you can get it, if the gym's even available, and also at what cost, because we might still be playing at that time of the season.
Mm-hmm.
I think the situation is you have to sort of calculate how many tickets you can actually sell. And although, for example, on the coaches' passes, to me, I would just say, hey, I know you got a gold pass there, Gary, but guess what? You're not going to the
You can't do that. You can't do that.
Watch it online. We're going to save the tickets for the fans for both schools.
See, but that leads to the problem, though, Gary. It's like you have your coach's pass, but I bought my ticket on what's it called, Ticket Fans or whatever that site is. I bought my ticket, so I think I'm in. I go to the gate. Here's grandma at the gate to see her grandson play in this big game, and the fire marshal says it's sold out. But I bought my ticket. Here it is, right here on my phone. I bought my ticket.
Let me tell you something how CMS operates. CMS is a government entity. Government entities have a budget ahead of time.
Yes.
So CMS does not have a slush fund or a rainy day fund where they can say, oh, we got a big game. Let's throw another $10,000, $15,000 over at Queens College so we can rent their gym just in case. Okay. They don't have money like that. Their budget is made a year ahead of time, and they can't have contingencies for athletics. Athletics gets this amount of money this year, and there's no contingency.
You know what CMS does have, Gary? You know what CMS does have? They have a $2.5 billion bond to build new facilities partly to build new facilities around here. One thing CMS needs to do, maybe two things CMS needs to do: build a gym big enough to host your graduations, your big events. Concerts, even. You could make money with a big enough gym in this area. And then we avoid these problems. And football field too, because it comes up every couple of years in football. We don't have a big enough place. I've always said CMS have regional facilities. They said just like Rock Hill has that big regional facility. We need to have a 5,000 to 6,000 seat gym. We need to have an 8,000 to 10,000 seat football stadium, and we wouldn't have these problems.
Let me jump in here.
You make these plans 8 years down the road. You make them 5 years down the road at a certain budget. And then when you get down the road, you find out you don't have enough money because you made the plan 5 years ago.
And everything went up.
And everything has gone up. So what do they cut? They cut back on athletic facilities.
Let me jump in here and give a point of context about this type of a game right here, because this similar situation happened 23 years ago in Raleigh. It was a regular season game. Mm-hmm. But when Broughton and Leesville Road sold out Holiday Gymnasium at Broughton, when Shavlik Randolph was at Broughton and Anthony Richardson was at Leesville Road, both of whom went on to be McDonald's All-Americans in consecutive years. Broughton sold out the game. They had to turn almost 1,000 people away. Leesville knew that they had a problem in being able to host it. The only way that Reynolds Coliseum was able to be rented for that game required Leesville Road taking a chance. Then Leesville Road principal Richard Murphy, who's watching from above, went to his athletic director, Marshall Hamilton, who's watching from above, and said, Marshall, can we move the game to NC State? Marshall's first reaction was, I can't afford that. Right. The only way it was covered is Richard Murphy, who has a building named after him at Leesville now, said to Marshall, okay, can you come up with X amount of dollars? It was a $3,500 rental, and I'll cover the rest in discretionary funds.
Right.
That's the only way it worked. Now, so to Gary's point, the budgeting realities make something like this very, very hard. It's going to take Myers Park being willing to take that kind of a chance because it's their home game.
I mean, I don't think Myers Park wants to give up the game personally. I just worry about my concern is grandma who can't get in the game because I heard from 15 and 20 of them last year they couldn't go into that semifinal game. I mean, one lady told me just bowling because she had flown in. The lady had flown in from New York and couldn't.
But you cannot eliminate access to games with duly carded North Carolina Coaches Association members, let alone those who have the goal. You cannot do that.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that's why I think it needs to be in a bigger arena.
Agree. But how do we make it happen?
Every time I go to these holiday tournaments and they say, Coach, we're not taking passes. I say, are these two state teams? They say, yes. I say, are those state referees? They say, yes. I say, is this a state sanctioned game? They say, yes. I say, well, this is a state card. Get out the way.
Well, Gary, here's my question. How did Vicky Hamilton get Charlotte and Bojangles back in the day when they used to host stuff there?
Dale was paying for it. You talking about the Bojangles?
No, not the Bojangles. When Vicky Hamilton had the conference tournaments in Charlotte and at Bojangles Coliseum Arena, whatever it was called at the time, how did she pay for it?
Rules were different too.
Somewhere, I think, in the city's contract with Bojangles and with Spectrum, the city gets like 4 or 5 dates a year that they can use rent-free. Now, CMS chooses to use those dates for graduation.
Yeah.
Not for athletic events. So I think that's how it's done. I know in I might not be right about this, but I think even with the Panthers contract with getting all this money from the city, they put a stipulation in there that the city gets to host the ACC championship and a bowl game or something like that.
How much are playoff tickets?
I think they're 10, aren't they? They might be more than that.
Bojangles sits about 8,500 people around. How many people will go to that game?
8,500.
Okay.
With or without passes?
Well, 8,300 will pass. So $10 a ticket, that's $83,000. So could I go to Bojangles and say, I'm expecting, a sellout. Can I pay you on the backside with the rental? Yeah.
But see, that goes back to this being a government entity. Governments don't operate that way. That's how politicians can make promises.
Now here's the other piece. The other piece with that Broughton Leesville game. The other piece with that Broughton Leesville Road game was that rental fee was not paid until after the event. I know that because Richard Murphy himself.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
If they wanted to make it work, on that detail, I think they could.
Yeah, and it could be some kind of booster from one of the schools says, "Look, I'll write the check, and once y'all make the money, or if you make the money, you pay me back." I don't know if that works like that. When I first got to Hopewell, one of the basketball players on the boys team, his grandfather was the inventor of Cool Whip.
Oh,
and
wow.
he told our AD, what you do is you let every Hopewell student in the game free with an ID, with the school ID, and send me the bill, and I'll pay for it. And he did that the whole time his grandson was at Hopewell.
That's why all the games are sold out.
That's why all their games used to be sold out when I first got there, because the kids were getting in free.
I did not know that.
As long as they had an ID. And then this man, he would write the check to our AD, for all the kids getting in. When
Yeah,
his
those
son,
were some of the best basketball environments I've ever been to.
yeah,
It was. I mean, I didn't know that story, but it was incredible. In fact, I met Tommy Amick at a Hopewell game sitting up there, and he had earplugs on. It was so loud. It was crazy up there. All right, we're way over time. We're going back to the old days, Cam. When we were going for 2 hours. Randall, trying to put you in your one shot, bro. What's your final thought?
We are in a too cool era of basketball. I know normally I come in here and laugh and joke, but I've seen more players walking in the gyms worried about videographers and photographers and than they are, worrying about how they looked and worrying about competing and winning basketball games. When you step into the gym, cool goes out the window, especially this time of year. Players stepping in between these lines, too cool to compete, too cool to talk on defense, too cool to make game-winning plays on both ends of the floor. You will find yourself at home. This is the time of year to put cool out the window and compete for 32 minutes.
I agree with that. Here, yeah, all those other things. Guys, I appreciate you staying on with us for 1 hour and 25. So I'm like 30, 45 minutes over what I'm supposed to be. But it's a great time of year. We'll be back next week with Randall and Rick going to name their final 3 candidates for Mr. and Ms. Basketball. And we'll give out those awards the week of the regionals. So thanks for watching. That's Randall, the best trainer I know. You heard it from 2 kids today. He's a great trainer. That's Alex, the contrarian. Rick Lewis, the #1 voice of high school basketball. That's Cam, the get in training, the guru in training. Gary Richmond, the retired coach and all knowing, and like our resident Richard Pryor just makes everybody bust out laughing. And I'm Langston, and we are Talking Preps.
Whack 'em.